I'm tying the golden spinner from Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories, on a number 10 sprout hook with black thread. I'm using the illustration in her book as my guide. Favorite Flies and Their Histories was published in 1892. Mary doesn't say a lot about this fly in her book, except that the way the fly eventually became tied ended up being quite different from the actual insect, the spinner, that it imitated. I'm tying in some bicolor tinsel with the gold side towards the hook. That way when I wrap it, I flip it so that the gold shows, just to create a small gold tag. I took my thread up the hook a little bit to get it out of the way. I'll bring my thread back so I can catch in that tinsel, and I'm going to wrap over it. And I'm going to just go ahead and wrap all the way up the shank of the hook. This fly does have a floss body, so I want to keep the underbody as even as I can, so that I don't have to work too hard with the floss to get the even body. So I'll just wrap in up to where I will tie in the hackle and wings. I have left about an eye length of bare hook where I will tie in the hackle and wings. I'm using gold oval tinsel for the rib. So I'll tie that in also up at the front and wrap over it, again to keep the body even. I have orange floss for the body. I pulled 2 strands from a 300 denier 4-strand spool, so I guess I have 150 denier. And I'll wrap back right to the tag and then bring my thread back up to the front. And then I'm only going to wrap one direction with this floss and do overlapping wraps to try and cover the black underbody. I think that is going to work fine. A little bit of taper and it wouldn't hurt, but I'm not going to stress about a taper. So floss is a thread that has multi-strands of material that are not woven or spun together. And denier is the weight of the thread in 9 meters. So a 300 denier thread, which would be twice this, is 300 grams in 9 meters of thread. I'll just wrap 3 times over the top of that and then catch it or secure it in with 3 tight wraps underneath. And then I will clip out the waist. And because this thread is floss and it's a multiple threads, I did get a few frays. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the rib the same direction because I'm not worried about the rib falling down between the wraps of the body. If I have a looser wound body and I think that the rib is likely to fall or squeeze down between the wraps of the body, I will wrap the rib the other direction, counter wrap it. But with this fairly tightly wound, wrapped body, I'm not afraid of the rib sinking down between the wraps, so I'll just go ahead and wrap it the same direction. And then I will clip out the extra. For the hackle, I'm using a feather off of this rooster neck, and I'm guessing that this might be a dyed light dun. Maybe it's a natural cream, but there's a lot of white underneath of it, so it gives me to think that maybe it's been dyed a cream color. So this is the feather that I'm going to use for the hackle. I'm going to strip off the fluffier barbs at the bottom. And because it's a short feather, I don't want to waste any with a crew cut. So I'm just going to cut the rachis short and tie it in by that bare rachis and hope it will grab well enough. I'll grab the tip of that hackle feather with my hackle plier, and I have tied it with the shiny side out or forward so that when I wrap it, the barbs will tend to curve back towards the bend of the hook. Right now it almost looks more like a dry hackle, but I'm going to make those hackle barbs lay back a little bit by wrapping back up over them. Catch in the tip. I do 3 wraps just because that's what I was taught, that it's not necessarily the rule. And a lot of it depends on the size of the fly and the size of the thread that you're using, how many wraps you want to do. Fewer, really, the better. And then my secure wraps, I am going to come up over the stem, the tip there where I finished wrapping. And as I wrap back over that, that's going to make those hackle barbs lean back a little bit heavier towards the bend of the hook. I'll grab that tip and snap it out. Oh, I think I will. I will. There we go. Just have to make sure I grab just the tip and not the other hackles with it. And then I want to split the hackles on the top because I'm going to lay the wing down between them. I'm using these dark gray back wing feathers off of a duck, and I'm going to measure the slips using another number 10 hook. So kind of the rule of thumb with the width of wings is the gape of the hook. So if I take a number 10 hook and just put it in like that, then I have a slip that's the width of the gape. I'm going to just grab that slip and rip it off the rachis. Repeat that process with a similar feather from the opposite wing. Separate out my gape width. Just pinch that slip and rip it off. Take those 2 slips, put them back to back with the raw edge of the slips going down. Set them between the hackles on the top of the fly and measure so that the tips are even with the bend of the hook. And I'll pinch those 2 slips together, holding them directly on top of the hook. Bring my thread up, pinch it, come down underneath of the shank, up, and then cinch up. And then I'll wrap back up towards the bend of the hook, away from the eye, starting to create the head. When I let go, I can check to see how my wings look. I'm okay with those wings. And then I will reach in carefully and just clip these butt end feathers out. Try to keep my eye clean. A little bit of crowded eye there, but it's a fairly good size eye. I think I'm just going to leave that. I could come back in with a razor blade maybe and clean that out a little bit more if I wanted to. Let me see if I can get a hackle feather down through that eye. Oh yeah. So my eye is open enough to get a hackle feather through it. It's open enough to get a tippet through. And I've caught some of the hackle barbs here, and just let me clip those out just to clean up the head a little bit. Mary did not have to worry about keeping the eye of her hooks clean because there were no eyes on the hooks she used. So it's just prior to hooks commercially made with eyes. She tied in a piece of gut, which is spun together, twisted together stuff from the inside of the silk moth caterpillar silk gland. So the moths were actually sacrificed and dissected so that they could get the material that they made the leader out of and then put an eye on the end of that leader. In a contemporary twist, I am going to put a drop of diluted goop on the head of this fly, and then I'm going to pass that hackle feather through the eye of the hook one more time just to make sure that it is clean and tippet ready.